agenda item that's listed or to suggest a future agenda item. This morning we have 5 submissions that have happened electronically, so we're going to call each one of these individuals in turn and get them to provide 3 minutes of comments for us this morning on the agenda item they've asked to talk about. First one is Mr. Bob Brewer. If we can get Mr. Bob Brewer on the line, please. Mr. Brewer?
Yes.
Yes, you're on the line with Smith County Commissioners Court. I would remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak and that the rules of decorum still apply.
Okay, thank you. Dear Judge Moran, on or about the time you assumed the position of Smith County Judge, I was quite encouraged when you stated that as far as the Constitution was concerned, you are an originalist. The Constitution is the fourth law in the entirety of U.S. law and was written 11 years after our first law, our Declaration. Our first law can be found in the law library in the basement of the Smith County Courthouse. Our first law is on page 1 of the entirety of U.S. law, while the Constitution is on page 25 of the 800,000 or so pages of U.S. law. The second sentence of the Declaration states the founding principles of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The third sentence starts that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. These words are our founders' original intent. They are the reason the Constitution was written, to protect our God-given unalienable rights, and that these rights are secured by government instituted with the consent of the governed. This is the origin of the originalists' understanding of the Constitution. I pray that you are an originalist. In this vein, Thomas Jefferson stated that rightful liberty is unobstructed action according to our will within limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. I do not add within the limits of the law, because law is often but the tyrant's will, and always so when it violates the rights of the individual. Isn't the purpose of our Constitution to protect the equality of our God-given unalienable rights? Would we, the people, consent to relinquish those rights by being detained at home and possibly for 6 months in jail? An originalist would know the answer to this question. I pray that you do, and that you will help teach everyone in America and Smith County to understand the foundational cornerstone of American law. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Goodbye.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Yes, you're on with the Smith County Commissioners Court for public comment. I would remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak and that the rules of decorum do apply. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, Commissioners and Judge. I'm calling to urge the court to take the lead in allowing businesses to reopen and let people get back to work. I understand these are trying and stressful times, which is why it's important for you to make life-altering decisions based on common sense, reliable facts from sources without a hidden profit or political agenda, and after a thorough consideration of potential unintended consequences. Just give people the facts. Don't react to predictive computer models that are often based on flawed input. There is empirical evidence that shows the overwhelming majority of people do not have a significant risk of dying from COVID-19, about 0.1 to 0.2%, while the arguably corrupt World Health Organization said it was 3.4%, which is 20 to 30 times higher than actual. We know that herd immunity is prevented by isolation policies. We also know there's a clearly defined risk group that can be protected with targeted measures. Here's the virus facts for Smith County. As of yesterday, 139 cases have been confirmed. Of that, there's been 3 related deaths, which is 0.001% of our population here in Smith County. Ironically, we see these low numbers here in Smith County, even with wide variations in the protections being implemented by businesses that have allowed to stay open. Random use of gloves and masks, hand sanitizer and wipes not all. Distancing mostly ignored. The county's job should be to inform everyone of the precautions that people should take. If you're sick, stay home. Avoid sick people. Cover your mouth and nose when you cough or sneeze. Wash your hands frequently. Then let individuals and businesses decide their own course of action, not politicians and bureaucrats who are far removed from our daily lives and livelihoods. It's the principle of the free people known as self-determination. Smith County should do what's appropriate for Smith County. Here's my as yet unanswered question. How is it safe, quote unquote, to go to one business but not the so-called unessential ones? And who gets to decide that? All businesses are essential to the business owners, their employees, the city, and the county. No government should be involved in picking winners and losers. In conclusion, what we've had up to this point is a blatant violation of our constitutionally protected, unalienable right to life, liberty, and property. It's time to exercise our right to nullify unconstitutional orders. In the meantime, you might want to read 42 U.S. Code 1983. In deciding a lawsuit against Governor Abbott for one of his executive orders, the first sentence of the unanimous ruling by the Texas Supreme Court says, the Constitution is not suspended when the government declares a state of disaster. All of you swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Today, I urge you all to begin upholding your oath. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Yes, Mr. Draschil? Yes, you're on with the Smith County Commissioners Court for public comment. You have 3 minutes to speak, and the rules of decorum do apply. You may begin speaking now.
All right. My name's Tom Draschil. I'm 70, born here in Tyler. I speak to this stay-at-home order that you issued on March 27th, and extended until tomorrow, the 30th. And about your police powers in crime and public health. I intend to be blunt. I'm trying to be helpful and do what's right for us, but I hope that you'll be humble enough to listen and consider what I have to say. I'm just a normal citizen. For what it's worth, I do have a law degree. I teach federal government and state government courses at TJC. If I hadn't had a commitment elsewhere, I would have testified against this order sooner. But I'm testifying now because it may very well come up again. So let me sum it up first. No matter how well-intentioned, it was not legal. You have no authority to criminalize otherwise law-abiding, healthy citizens. And someone's got to say, it doesn't matter if the governor thinks he can do it. It doesn't matter if almost all the counties in the country think it's okay. You and our county attorney should know better. And you should say further embarrassment to yourself and harm to Smith County citizens by ending it now. No phases. We've had millions of dollars of lost income, businesses shutting down, and so on. So I feel like someone has to say this. First of all, I'm sure, appreciate healthcare workers and government workers, and everyone's doing all they can to help deal with the challenge. Having said that, it is possible to get carried away. So regarding police powers over crime and health, and don't forget, government is a gun, a badge, and a uniform. It's not to be taken lightly, what you are exercising. So again, regarding police powers over crime and health, the federal government has none. The police powers are reserved to the states. That's simple federalism, the 10th Amendment. We've let the federal government usurp and take over in large part, but that doesn't make it right. Certainly not constitutional. Only the states, so city and local, city and county government, yourselves, have these police powers. So you have legitimate government authority to imprison people that break the law and quarantine sick people who are a threat to the public health, but not healthy people. These police powers have never extended to law-abiding, healthy citizens, ever, nowhere. You should have known better. It doesn't matter if everyone else is doing it. For city and county and state officials to act as if they have governmental authority to punish or control those of us who are abiding by the law and we're healthy, is assuming powers you do not have. $1,000 fine, 6 months in jail. You need to know that many of us normal citizens wonder more and more, who do these people think they are? I said earlier it's possible to get carried away. You got carried away. It would have been good and right for you to take the lead, be our leaders, and suggest these restrictions, as in Sweden, as voluntary measures recommended to responsible citizens. But that's not what you did. Fortunately, the sheriff's department's exercised restraint. Maybe you have, because no arrests have been made or citations have been issued. But you're threatening criminal penalties to law-abiding, healthy citizens. You can't do that. Somebody's got to say it. You should be embarrassed, ashamed of yourselves for your lack of understanding of the law. You should be embarrassed that average citizens are, like myself, are forced to continually bring up the U.S. Constitution that protects our God-given rights, our freedom. You've been elected and hired to publicly defend and administer this law, the Constitution. Specifically, that's why we required that you raise your arm to the square and swear that you would do it. It's not a joke. It's serious. I hope you won't forget the Constitution, somehow think you're above it, or ignorant if you don't recognize when you're doing it. Should we just remain silent when you go beyond your constitutional authority? That's not the way our system works. At least we citizens fail if we don't hold you to these boundaries. So this nonsense has to stop. Of course, it's scheduled to stop tomorrow, but the order was wrong, and it should never happen again in Smith County, Texas, even if everyone else in the country or the world is doing it. Thank you for listening. I hope you're listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
So, I'm so proud of Tom. That was a great presentation, reminiscent of the days of Patrick Henry. So anyway, I hope this uploads to YouTube okay. And I hope other counties in Texas will use this as an example of how to preserve our original law of God-given unalienable rights and the Constitution written to protect them.